This week we'll be discussing some interesting news from the iOS world, including the new iOS-compatible Microsoft Fitness Band, some innovative digital charity work, as well as more iOS app news and developments.
Hello, I'm Cameron.
And I'm Luke. We're here from Free Deal Studio, keeping you up to date with the latest app news and releases.
This is App to Date. So Luke, do you want to start us off with Photomath?
Yeah, Photomath. This app has absolutely blown up in the last week in several countries on the App Store. The app is called Microblink's Photomath. The app's purpose is to scan printed equations and solve them via your device's camera. And it even provides working out. The app is a proof of concept for Microblink's optical character recognition technology that it sells to banks and other financial institutions. I really wish this existed when I was in school, because I'd probably be a lot more qualified than I am now. I'd probably have an A star in math, in fact. In terms of the future, a really cool thing to think about would the way we have Google Glass at the moment. If you could download an app into a contact lens and take that into your school exams, I really wish I was born in the future.
Me too. I've been looking at bionic arms, so, if I can get an eye which can solve mathematical equations, work out the trajectory of a ball I'm about to throw so I can hit someone with an egg on Halloween from 500 metres away, that'd be great.
I never thought about it that way, but the real life applications of it in terms of physics would be really good.
It's pretty special.
Yeah, I mean, I've always said that, the way people say bend it like Beckham, a lot of scientists would be able to tell you how to kick a ball perfectly so that it curves in the air, whereas a lot of them can't actually kick the ball. Whereas David Beckham probably couldn't tell you the science behind it.
But he can sure kick a ball.
Yeah, but he can sure kick a ball.
Imagine the day when smart contact lenses are synced with artificial limbs. If you want to hit someone with a ball, you can lock onto them with your smart contact lens and your arm just does everything perfectly for you. It'll be the same with jumping. How much power to put into... you see these free runners. Imagine cyborg free runners with super contact lenses. I mean, that's the future.
Yeah. Imagine the smart Olympics. So we have the standard Olympics where we're not allowed any additional help.
That's genius.
And then we have the super Olympics where we have technology fully embracing the human element.
We would love to see Usain Bolt meets
Robocop.
Robocop, yeah.
Another idea we came up with for this would be to be able to scan a chessboard and be able to work out the perfect moves in order to beat someone. We've seen computers beating chess players for years. I think we've seen them beat the top professionals, and we could see just the average person out of nowhere beat them because of a certain cheat in their eyes. Anyway, now that we've fetishised about that.
Moving on.
The company have stated that at this stage it's to solve basic arithmetic, fractions, decimals, powers, roots, linear equations, as well as other scientific calculator functions. The app is available on iOS and Windows Phone. Android are not going to get it until 2015, so there you go, Windows Phone, you finally have a feature before someone else.
I think it's a shame that it can only recognise printed characters and not handwritten. It'd be nice if there was a feature where it could learn your handwriting like some other apps. So then when you were, let's say, doodling out your own working out, you could take a photo and test your maths that way. Because it's not exactly practical to have to print everything out these days. I think the last time I printed something was kind of like 2012. But, we'll see. Save the trees.
Music streaming service Deezer acquires Stitcher. Deezer is a Paris-based music streaming service similar to Spotify that has over 16 million monthly users in over 180 countries, and it's recently launched in the US via a partnership with home audio company Sonos. Stitcher is a popular podcasting app which allows you to find roughly 35,000 radio shows and podcasts, most notably of which This American Life, BBC, and of course iOS App to Date. In an attempt to stand out from other music streaming service, Deezer are going to buy Stitcher, presumably so they can incorporate talk radio into their app. Unfortunately, financial information isn't published. But what do we think of this? Do we really think that this is going to make them stand out any more than Spotify?
Well, the problem I find with Stitcher, from a podcaster's perspective, of course, is the audio quality. Mm-hmm. Now, Stitcher actually download and compress our podcasts to host themselves, and that means our Stitcher downloads can't be tracked and added to our total number of downloads. So I think as more people cotton on with this, especially podcasters, and they think, well, actually, I'm putting all this effort into my recording sounding excellent, and it's actually going out there at a lower quality. I think they might start getting put off. I've seen a few blogs where people have decided to come off Stitcher. And I mean, also the fact that Stitcher sells advertising on top of content we produce, which we receive nothing for.
Let's not put Stitcher down too much though, because we were dubbed best in category.
We were actually. Well, I'm not going to be biased. We've got to tell the listeners how it is.
Do we think this is going to be beneficial to the podcasting industry itself? Do you think it will raise more awareness towards podcasters such as us, or do you think that it will make us less relevant?
I think it'll have a mixed effect. I think the more apps out there that are using podcasts as a piece of consumable content, the better. But if people start comparing the audio quality to, say, a Stitcher podcast and then a song they've downloaded on iTunes or even an audiobook they've got from Amazon, for example, then they might think, oh, podcasts, they're garbage. They sound terrible, when actually they don't.
Yeah, I mean, the best place to download audiobooks from is, of course, audible.com. And you can get yourself a free audiobook by going to www.audibletrial.com/iOS app to date.
That's completely on us.
So, do you think that other services will follow? Do you think that Spotify will start buying up podcasting industries, maybe starting their own radio stations?
Podcasts are kind of the new customisable radio stations, really. I mean, people are busy, so subscribing to a podcast is convenient.
Yeah, I think one of the cool things is that you don't have to wait for its release. If you get me, in the same way streaming services like Netflix, it's sort of a catch-up, but it's not really a catch-up because you're not behind on anything sort of service. Yeah. I think it's a really futuristic radio service. I think it's probably the face of radio for the next few years. I'm somebody of the persuasion that television in its current format is going to go out soon. So I think that maybe these services such as Spotify will buy up maybe a television station.
I mean, streaming services like Netflix and podcasting services are definitely the way forward. They're the new television and radio.
Mm-hmm. Microsoft launched a cross-platform fitness tracking wristband. This Wednesday, Microsoft unveiled its new fitness tracker. Retailing at $199, the Microsoft Band can be purchased on the company's online retail store in the US and is compatible with Android and iOS devices, as well as, of course, Windows Phone, but nobody cares about that. The band includes 10 sensors that track steps, heart rate, and more. The band has features such as text, email, Twitter notifications, driving directions, traffic information, sports, stocks, weather, and more. It's kind of like a Fitbit with a display and a couple of kind of smartwatch applications. It's not a smartwatch as such. The wristband itself is not a watch, but I came up with the idea because when I was first reading it, I thought that this was what it was, and I was like, wow, that's a great idea of having your watch face, your normal watch face on the upside, and then the band being the smart part of it, and it being on the backside, on the inside of your wrist. And I think I've just made someone a lot of money there, so...
We're doing quite well today, actually.
Yeah.
We're coming out with all these inventions. I think the 48-hour charge on these devices is pretty impressive. I mean, I've got a Fitbit myself. It does tend to run out now and then, mainly because it's a passive device. You're not really actively engaging with it, so you tend to forget about it. And when it has run out, I take it off because it doesn't look great either. I mean, the Microsoft Band looks a little better. So yeah, I'd love to see how these email and Twitter notifications work. Same with the driving directions. Would it be practical to use? I mean, the driving directions, I suppose that's verbal.
Yeah.
It must have a pretty powerful speaker in there. Yeah, I mean, I'd love to try one out. I think for next week's show, maybe we should have a look.
Yeah, definitely. It's been launched correspondingly with a health app called Microsoft Health, where have I heard that one before, that includes a cloud service for users to store and combine health and fitness data.
So do you think this surge in health and fitness apps is a bubble? Or do you think it's here to stay?
See, I think it's a fad at the moment.
Yeah.
I think nobody's really that into it, but I think it will just become a granted thing. I think lots of people are jumping on the bandwagon and going, oh yeah, this is really big, this is really big. But I think it will just mellow out and be a really sort of natural thing that comes with each device now.
Yeah, it'll increasingly become the norm, I think, yeah. It'll be interesting when we start seeing gyms actually selling them. I think that'll be the tipping point, actually.
Next up, the new app that scans for suicidal tweets. The British charity Samaritans have launched an app this week that scans your friends' tweets for potentially worrying messages, alerting you when they use phrases such as tired of being alone, hate myself, depressed, help me, and need someone to talk to.
If the message posters' Twitter followers have the application, They will receive an email which links to the tweet which has been picked up and offers guidance on how to provide support.
That's a very nice thought from Samaritans. It's very innovative, but I think that people are very melodramatic online, and sometimes they say certain buzz phrases because the only way they're picking this up is by certain phrases. I think sometimes people just say it to grab a bit of attention, and maybe that's okay. Sometimes people just want a bit of attention, but I don't think this is necessarily going to help in their mission. But it's a very nice app to do.
Yeah, I mean, I think the practical application of it is questionable. It's nothing new. I don't think it's really going to help anyone, and it might actually make people feel more self-conscious and less likely to express themselves online if they are feeling a bit down because they don't want to be labelled as suicidal.
The best way to do it for them probably would have been to have it so it tracks a trajectory. You know, if you get significantly worse, more and more depressing tweets, then you send out a thing. But, you know, at one time, help me, it just doesn't seem quite right because I might need help with my, car.
Yeah, that's it. You've broken down your car on, I don't know, some lonely motorway. You're like, tired of being alone, help me. And you get branded suicidal by this new app. It happens, I'm sure.
That's brilliant. That's sort of a picture of a tyre.
Yeah.
Okay, WhatsApp delays the launch of their free calling service to the first quarter of 2015. WhatsApp has delayed its plan to introduce voice calling features this year, pushing back the launch to the first quarter of 2015 because of several technical issues. One of the biggest issues that WhatsApp disclosed, it does not have access to microphones on some smartphone devices that enable them to properly utilise noise cancellation systems. They also want to be able to roll it out into 2G networks for developing countries and developing networks. There are no current plans to be charging users in the future.
Well, I guess this is an extension of WhatsApp's move to charge for the use of the app after 1 year of having it. I mean, they're kind of getting people reliant on their app and they're getting used to messaging for free in this way, and now people will be used to making calls with WhatsApp. So after, a year of use, they're going to buy it. I know I would if I'd become reliant on an app like WhatsApp to make calls, to text and contact people in general. I've been surprised actually the kind of people who use WhatsApp. There's a lot of people on LinkedIn. I've met people at business seminars and they've said, are you on WhatsApp? I mean, I thought this was something kind of teenagers use, but I think it's being increasingly adopted by a wider audience.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I did think the same. I thought, it's the same user base as Snapchat, but it absolutely is not. It actually has professional client base. Mm-hmm. A decline in iPad sales.
Yeah, I mean, this is an interesting topic actually. Declining iPad sales have been blamed on developers for their apparent lack of interest in the platform and for a slowing pace of specialised tablet app innovation. However, when I looked at the numbers, actually over 500,000 apps were iPad optimised on the App Store, which is far more than available in the Android market, but the Nexus 7 is still selling incredibly well. The number is rumoured to be so low on the Play Store that Google won't even give an official figure yet. I think Apple are only superficially steamrolling ahead of Android in the tablet market because the majority of people don't really seem to care about app innovation. And although there's generally a build-up of hype around app releases like Pixelmator and Adobe Sketch, I've taken a look at the statistics and almost 80% of tablet users are spending their time playing games, a bit like me, and on social networks. And you don't need an iPad to do that. You can do that all on your iPhone.
Apple's saying that they're dominating Android in this way in the tablet market is sort of manipulated figure, because although more people are using Apple product on its own compared to each individual Android products stacked on top of each other, absolutely more sales.
Yeah, I mean, I think that people just aren't that interested in doing complex things on touchscreen devices, despite how much Apple are hyping it up and how much effort they're putting into pushing developers to release these kind of creative media production apps. So, I mean, Luke, you're a musician, you've been in sort of several successful bands, really. Have you ever used, a tablet or an iPhone for producing your music?
No, I haven't actually. I've never used a tablet or an iPhone for anything other than playing around with music. I've never done it on a professional level on an iPad. I know that some people like to use it as a sort of MIDI interface to control their studio and stuff, but it's not really, at the moment, quite there.
Yeah, I mean, that falls in line really with I mean, my opinion that tablet devices will primarily remain a platform for consumption of content rather than the creation of it. Users just aren't going to notice a lack of innovation with tablet apps on the Play Store, which is what seems like a lot of a wasted effort by some iOS developers. I mean, these kind of apps are nice to have, like you've said, the MIDI interfaces that you can control through your phone, but they're not crucial. Most serious designers and creators they're going to go for a Mac, they're going to go for a desktop computer, they're not going to go for a tablet or an iPhone. I think, yeah, Apple are slightly off the ball there. I mean, the top 2 apps on the App Store today are actually Minecraft and Grand Theft Auto, which, I mean, it supports the point entirely that the iPhone and the iPad are devices for consumption.
Yeah, they certainly didn't create Grand Theft Auto on the iPad, but they're certainly selling it enough on the iPad, yeah.
And I mean, I have to admit that I do 99% of my photo editing on the iPad using Photoshop Express, but it would never in a million years replace my desktop version of Photoshop. And the same goes for video editing. VideoKey, we featured that in a few podcasts. It's a great app for splicing together videos of the holiday, like when I went to Scotland, but I don't really want to pay for it because I'm paying for my Creative Cloud license, which lets me do so much more. I've noticed also people online suggesting that the Cintiq graphics tablet, which is a completely different kind of tablet to an iPad or an Aspirin, has now been replaced by iPads. But from experience, this is complete nonsense. Try streaming a multi-million poly 3D model to your iPad or your Nexus from your PC to sculpt in real time. It's just not going to happen. It's fine streaming data from your iPad to your computer, like we do when we're recording the game, or app footage for the videos that we put out on YouTube from time to time. But the other way around is completely hopeless. I think the major difference is that the Cintiq, for example, it just isn't a toy. It's a specialised piece of professional hardware, which I don't think the iPad or the Nexus can really be classed as.
Well, I think what Apple are pushing towards when they released iCloud Drive and stuff, I think what eventually we're pushing towards is the piece of hardware that you hold in your hand doesn't actually hold all of the hardware you're using. You're just remotely using another piece of hardware that's stored somewhere else. I think maybe one day we'll have desktop PCs at home, super advanced desktop PCs at home, and a control interface we can take with us everywhere we go, rather than having the processor and everything built into the iPad itself. And that's great that how many, 3 billion silicon, whatever, transistors in their A8 chip. I mean, just imagine having a bigger chip and then you could have a whole load more on there, but then you can't do that because at the moment, the hardware, they want to keep it small. So the best way to do that is to not just wait for Moore's Law to catch up with you and have the world's smallest devices, but actually externalize.
Yeah, I mean, once they nail streaming data effectively, which maybe we'll see with quantum computers coming out, we'll have the world's first quantum iPad, imagine that. Then yeah, maybe. I just don't think, as much as Apple and kind of Apple fanboys are raving on, which I don't think we are really. I mean, I think we're quite critical, actually. Yeah, the technology is just not there yet for that kind of application. Right, we've got an interesting one for Halloween here. Ghost Locator.
Ooh.
If you want to try your hand at ghost hunting this Halloween, I've got a pretty neat little app for you to try out. Ghost Locator works just like the radar motion tracker from the Aliens movie, so you'll all be familiar with it. And all you have to do is flick on a switch and you'll be ready to track real ghosts. Is that something you'd like to try this Halloween, Luke?
Yeah, I actually worked in the basement of one of the UK's most haunted buildings and saw no ghosts for a very long time, so I would very much like to give it a go and see some real ghosts.
Well, I've got a secret for you then. If you download this app and enter the cheat code, listeners, listen out for this. You enter the cheat code 666, you'll unlock the ability to track the devil. So download this app, try our cheat code, and let us know how you get on. Another interesting side feature of this app is the Ghost Herald, which along with the Werewolf Herald is a publication run by the app company, which is basically a bunch of ghost stories, and apparently they're pretty well written. So definitely check it out.
I know you can track the devil, but please don't ding on my doorbell.
Moving on, we have Apple Pay, Google Wallet and currency locked in a brutal war. The new contender entering the electronic payments arena is currency, which last week almost nobody had heard about, but now it's the reason big retail stores are blocking their customers from using Apple Pay. The difference seems to be that currency is striving to bypass major credit cards entirely and avoid the associated processing fees, whereas Apple has partnered directly with major banks and credit card providers. So what do you think about that, Luke?
we've said it before in all our Bitcoin stuff. We seem to be the kind of people who are currently pretending to take down all these major corporations and banks. So I like the idea of bypassing them with a completely new payment system, not collaborating with the current superpowers of the world. But I don't know. I don't know who Currency are, so I don't really trust them as much. Because Apple's got a really strong brand name. I know Apple, and I know I can trust them to a certain extent. Whereas I know Facebook, and I know I can't trust them at all. And I know Snapchat, I can't trust them at all. I don't even know who Currency are, you know?
Yeah.
And if I'm doing financial transactions, I really, really want to know who I'm dealing with. And something that Lamar Wilson touches on a few times when we talk to him is that he really thinks it's important that you build a relationship between your customers and the person that's handling your money. Because if you don't know that you actually own your money, you're not going to work with that person.
That's it. Actually, I'd like to mention that when we were testing the Fever Bitcoin wallet, there was a little blip at the beginning, and Casey had to quickly go and have a chat with Lamar to sort it out. I mean, it was absolutely nothing, a few seconds, but he came back to me with a long, in-depth email explaining exactly what the problem was, how he got around it, and why it won't happen again in the future. And I feel that was a fantastic example of transparency. I mean, like you say, building trust.
Strong customer service right from the CEO down.
Exactly.
It's not just the lady in the window in the bank who doesn't really know anything.
I mean, as someone who set up a shop myself, I mean, I can see why all these major retailers are backing Currency, because the credit card processing payment fees are absolutely ridiculous. I mean, it just eats up into your profit. So I completely understand the motivation behind backing this. I agree with you, Luke, completely that, I mean, Currency, they're new on the scene. Who are they? Okay, they're being backed by Walmart. What does that mean to me in the UK? You know, absolutely nothing.
Being backed by Asda.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's almost irrelevant. But there's an interesting kind of divide between these two services, Currency and Apple Pay, because I mean, although Currency has moved away from the banks, Apple Pay is actually anonymous. So merchants can't track your purchase history and then obviously, you know, to refer other products. So we have on the one hand Currency that we don't want nothing to do with major credit cards, but we're going to track all of your purchases. And then Apple Pay are saying, well, you know, we're quite openly in bed with the banks, but your purchases are going to be anonymous. So it'll be interesting to see what consumers see as more valuable. And I guess we'll find out.
Okay, next up we have the continuation of our interview with Lamar Wilson. Before we get into it, we'd like to say if you want to learn anything more about Bitcoins, you can check out audible.com.
Bitcoin 101, a beginner's introduction to Bitcoin. We will put a link on our website. We have a new website which will be launching next week. And on there, we also have a download for you that we've put together ourselves. A list of the best Bitcoin wallets, including our audio introduction to Bitcoin. So check that out on our new website, which will be launching next week.
www.3deal.co.uk, and if you want to try out audible.com, you can go to www.audibletrial.com/iOS app to date. Now is our interview with Lamar Wilson, continued from last week. If you want to hear the first half of the interview, make sure you subscribe to the podcast and listen back to episode 9.
We've got Fever. Your wallet is protected by AES 256 encryption, which is approved for securing top secret government information. And I've read kind of an interesting note on this. And apparently it would take 70 billion computers, 77 septillion years to break the encryption, which is longer than the history of the universe. So how important was security to you when developing the app?
When you're dealing with people's money, you want to make sure that you do everything possible to keep it secure. We don't believe that we should have access to your keys at all. So if someone hacks us, they would have to hack that AES 256 encryption as well. I just think that security is probably the biggest thing in Bitcoin because you want to be able to secure what it is that you own. I think that we should basically just continue to try to find ways to continue to do that.
A lot of other services actually hold on to your private keys in the same way that a bank basically owns your money. These other services own your money. With us, the wallet and private key are generated on your wallet, so you truly own the Bitcoins that you have.
I know you've got a PIN lock verification, but does the app offer a two-step verification?
Two-factor authentication? No, not yet. The wallet that you see currently is a hot wallet. So we didn't add as many security functions because we don't assume that people put a lot of Bitcoin in there. We think that you should put the majority of your Bitcoin into paper storage where it's off of any type of network. I think the majority of your Bitcoin should be on paper storage, but for our wallet, we try to make it as quick as possible, but be secure at the same time. So we added a pin functionality so that you can quickly spend your Bitcoin. But yeah, right now I still think that paper wallets are probably the best way to secure Bitcoins until someone figures out something else, and I think we're working on that right now.
I've heard online actually that there's a secret new project codenamed the Mothership. So is that related to this? And if it is, or if so, is there anything you can tell me whatsoever about this?
Well, the mothership is probably exactly what you would think it to be. Whenever you think of the mothership, you think of huge, you think of a lot of features. We're actually working on a product that will hopefully make it a lot easier for people to transact in Bitcoin for themselves, but also to store Bitcoin securely and to basically be almost the credit union to a Coinbase's or Circle's bank. We want people to have access and control of everything on their own. And I think that we want to build tools for those people to do it for themselves instead of having to turn to a third party to do it. We just want to provide the tools and get out of the way. So the mothership is about to be, we think, probably one of the biggest things to come into Bitcoin in a long time.
With that in mind, where do you see Fever, yourselves, and the company headed in the future?
We are growing at a tremendous pace right now. We're getting a lot of people downloading the wallet. We're getting a lot of people talking about it. Of course, everyone likes the commercial. We're working on other commercials because we just really feel like the best way to democratize commerce around the world. We think it's also the best way to democratize some of the power structures around the world. So we really think that if we provide tools for people to do it themselves, that we will free the world from a lot of tyrants. It's almost like the browser. You come up with the browser, it basically gave everyone an opportunity to have access to information. And so we want to make sure that we give everyone access to money, basically. That's what pushes us, that's what drives us every day, just to make the world a better place by allowing more people to be in on this thing we call finances.
What advice would you give an aspiring app developer listening to the show?
Number one, if you're a good app developer, give me an email. We may need to hire you. My email is lamar@feeva.com, PHEEVA.com. But if you're an app developer, I say just get out there and build something. Like literally get out there. If you have an idea, build it and put it in the world. It's really easy to get it out there because of the internet, because of the democratization of information, like we were talking about earlier with the internet. So just get your idea out there, go on Reddit, find out what people want, and build it. And I think that there's enough room for everybody right now to really get out there and start digging their own space and making applications that make it easier for us to transact, to store, and to do things with Bitcoin that people weren't thinking about before.
What's the best place or the best places for people to find you online in terms of community websites like Reddit?
If you have any questions, you can email any of us. All of us are. It's really easy to get to any of us. It's Lamar at Feeva. It's Casey at Feeva. Leif at Feeva. Jeff at Feeva. Dave at Feeva. Matt, you can go back and listen to this podcast 300 times and get all those names. But but yeah, we're really easy to get in touch with, and we're on Twitter. You can tweet us or whatever. We just really want to be a part of the community, and we want to build tools for the people. Like we consider ourselves to be a company for the people.
Aside from Fever, what other things are you passionate about? In the tech world, that is.
In the tech world, cryptocurrencies are probably my largest focus right now. The things that you can do with them as a currency are cool, but then there's other things that you can do that are really piquing a lot of my interest as far as smart contracts go, storing other things outside of Bitcoin on the blockchain and being able to move those around the world, just storing property, period, on the blockchain. I think those things interest me a lot. I really, really, really like that. And just fintech in general, like when you start realizing that all of this stuff can be broken down into a blockchain, all the things that we thought were hard to do because it was Visa doing it or MasterCard doing it, and then you can see how quickly you can build an app in a span of 3 months that sends transactions around the world. We have we have people who have users in Hong Kong, we have users in India, we have users all over the world. And to see that I can send money to them within a 10-minute frame pretty quickly, it really does. It really opens your eyes up and says, well, shoot, if I can do this, then why not do it? You know what I mean? If you can do a thing, why not do it? So.
What other apps have you been working on at the moment or in the past?
The mothership. But we're actually, and I haven't even told the team this, I've been kind of doing a secret project. It's still around cryptocurrencies, So even Casey's hearing this now, but we're actually working on doing something for the web space, a web wallet. That will be out probably pretty soon. Like I said, I hadn't really talked to anybody on the team. I was kind of doing it as a side project, but we'll probably be launching that soon. I've just been doing some tests with it and trying to get it out there. So you guys will be seeing that, and hopefully, you can spread that one. And that'll be a lot easier to install than to go to the app stores and download all of it. You could just basically go to the website and create a wallet really quickly, and I think that will help people as well. We just try to make it easy, man. Really trying to make it easy.
Excellent. We got an exclusive then. Any other messages, anything that you want to talk about with the audience?
I think one concept that's core to Bitcoin, and that gives it the greatest power, is its ability for disintermediation. And basically what this is reducing the middlemen that we currently deal with in business to consumer, commerce, or even more broadly in peer-to-peer transactions. Basically, this will take away the credit card companies charging merchants 3%, remittance for a family trying to send their family back money. Western Union will take 11%. Even PayPal right now is like holding my money after I sold something on eBay. And PayPal makes all their money by floating, basically making their money off money that's floating in between people. All of these things basically come at a cost to the consumer. As soon as we realize that we don't need these middlemen anymore, that technology can do it for us, really takes back some of the powers. I mean, peer-to-peer, everything is happening right now, from Airbnb to Uber, and it's just the way of the future. And Bitcoin is one of the tools necessary to get to that point.
We've spoken a lot about Uber on the show, actually. And I mean, they've had a huge backlash from a lot of people in the transportation industry because of how disruptive it's been. So do you think that there's a risk for Fever with some kind of backlash, maybe from financial industries? What do you think?
If we are doing it right, there should be tons of backlash. And that's the truth. I mean, you're not going to have change without somebody fighting you. If they're not fighting us, we're not doing it well enough. We definitely want to open up, like Casey was saying, he so beautifully put, we definitely want to open it up and allow these type of functions to be for everyone. And literally just, instead of like going to the gatekeepers, go and kick the freaking gate down. You know what I mean? Like, tear the walls down, man. And that's how it is. I mean, those are the things that kind of drive me and drive us. And it's to like really give to help other people achieve. You know what I mean? So that's why our company's called Love Will, right? That we believe in that. We believe in that wholeheartedly, and we're going to keep pushing that forward as long as we're capable to do so. Oh, well, the last thing is, I don't know if you guys over in the UK are, you probably have a worldwide listening audience. If you watch football, like American football, make sure you tune into the Bitcoin Bowl. It'll be the first bowl that is brought to you by Bitcoin this winter. And also, I wanted to just say, like, everybody who has never dealt with Bitcoin, just give it a try. Pick up the wallet, Fever.com, go to Apple Store, go to the Google Play Store. We have a Chrome extension. Get the wallet, check it out. Have fun with it. If you have any questions, email one of us. We really do want to help because we really do think that we can change the world by just opening up these things to more and more people. So get involved and keep listening to this wonderful podcast.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening in this week. Make sure you're listening next week by subscribing to the podcast and leaving us some feedback. On Stitcher, we were dubbed Best in Category.
And on iTunes, Jamie Smith, GB, described us as informative and fun and gave us 5 stars. Expert Reviewer 420 gave us 5 stars and said, as the title says, both entertaining and informative. Worth a listen and subscribe. 5 out of 5. Thank you very much, Expert Reviewer 420.
Please fill out our PodTrack survey. We've really enjoyed your comments so far. Please support the show by finding the link on the website and getting involved.
Get involved and keep listening to this wonderful podcast.